It's Thursday, July 30th. In the headlines in local news, Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister says government to consult the United States on TCN MOU release. In business news, juicy beef continues global expansion. Regionally, Guyana's Prime Minister deems the MV Barima too risky to salvage. And in sports, Jamaica climbs a Commonwealth medal table. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Brittany Clark. The government is once again seeking to dispel public concerns over Jamaica's proposed transit arrangement with the United States for third country nationals, stressing that the arrangement is still under discussion and does not involve the permanent resettlement of migrants. Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith says any arrangement will include strict safeguards to protect Jamaica's security and national interests. Speaking at a post-cabinet media briefing, Minister Johnson-Smith said CARICOM leaders recently discussed the proposed arrangements and agreed that any transit program must not compromise regional security or place additional pressure on member states' resources.
Jamaica joined the region in making clear that, and I quote from this statement, that every effort would be made to ensure that TCN arrangements do not disrupt the security of countries in the region or divert resources and services from citizens of respective countries. So this was a sort of baseline understanding, recognizing that some countries had signed, some countries hadn't yet signed, but were in discussions, but that all had been, in one way or another, engaged on the issue.
The minister emphasized that the proposal relates only to the temporary transit of individuals without criminal records and is separate from the deportation of nationals.
The statement also further clarifies that the MOUs are intended to provide for the transit of individuals without criminal antecedents to their home countries rather than settlement in member states. So again, there are transit arrangements for persons without criminal antecedents. And it was important enough for the statement to say that it is important for citizens of our member states to understand this difference. We all have deportation arrangements whereby we receive our own nationals who have committed, who have broken the law in the countries that are returning them, and this occurs with the US, the UK, Canada, and other countries in the same way that Jamaicans deport persons who come to our country illegally or who break the law here, who are foreign nationals. We deport also. So that's different from what is being contemplated here.
She also sought to correct what she described as misinformation surrounding the proposed agreement, saying reports that thousands of migrants would be sent to Jamaica are inaccurate.
The arrangement is not yet finalized with the U.S. government as the operating procedures are still not settled. They continue to be under discussion. And secondly, here comes the headings. Whatever the procedures that are agreed, 10,000 people are not coming under the MOU. 10,000 people are not coming. The arrangements proposal is for up to 25 persons per fortnight, and it is not committed that every fortnight people will come. Secondly, there are no criminals that are coming under this arrangement. Thirdly, the individuals that are coming to transit. They are not coming to stay.
Johnson-Smith said the International Organization of Migration would oversee the migrants' temporary stay with costs covered by the United States and adds that the arrangement would be suspended if more than 10 people apply to remain in Jamaica. Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith says the government is considering whether the Memorandum of Understanding governing the Third Country National or TCN program can be made public. However, she says any decision to release the document will first require discussions with the United States as the agreement involves both governments. Responding to questions at the latest post-cabinet media briefing, Senator Johnson-Smith said bilateral agreements of this nature are not typically publicly released and must be handled through consultation with the other signatory.
I do not usually share agreements between governments publicly. We share about the agreements, but we don't usually share actual documents. This is something that I would have to discuss with the U.S., which is the other party.
She shares that the agreement is treated differently from other government documents because of its operational and diplomatic sensitivity.
They're usually dealt with sensitively, which is why they're even not treated as the same as other agreements under the ATI. The agreement is not a unilateral Jamaican agreement where we do with as is requested. So I would have to discuss that with the United States as well as with within the government. And I think it's also important to recognize that the operational procedures are not settled, as I said earlier. They relate back to the MOU. And I think what we would not want is further sensationalization of circumstances in which we are seeking to ensure the best protective approach to Jamaica and to Jamaicans.
The Foreign Affairs Minister adds that she intends to verify previous statements on the matter before holding further discussions with cabinet colleagues and U.S. officials.
So I'm going to say that I will verify the language that was used, and I will also have that discussion with my colleagues. But they would be aware that as Foreign Minister, I do have a particular responsibility for the relationship with our partners, and that we will therefore have that discussion with them as well as with my cabinet colleagues.
Nearly 9 months after Hurricane Melissa devastated Western Jamaica, the government has begun installing container homes for families who lost everything in the Category 5 hurricane. The rollout is part of the administration's post-disaster housing program, with more than 2,000 pre-built units expected to be deployed across the affected parishes. Danita Rodney has the details.
The first container homes are now being installed, providing temporary but durable housing for families displaced by Hurricane Melissa. Minister with responsibility for land titling and settlements, Robert Montague, says the government has been working with members of parliament from the affected western parishes to coordinate the distribution of more than 2,000 housing units.
We have acquired over 2,000 of these units. They are here in Jamaica, and the majority of them are in Western Jamaica, where they will be deployed. We have gone through a number of checks and verification to ensure that the right person who is a victim gets the home. We don't want to satisfy the greedy. We want to treat the needy.
The opposition has criticized delays in distributing the units and has called for a more flexible verification process. But Minister Montague says the checks are necessary to ensure homes reach eligible beneficiaries.
We allowed the Ministry of Labour and Social Security and the Ministry of Local Government through the municipal corporations and their poor relief department to go around in the communities and check and verify persons who had major damage or lost their homes entirely, and especially if they were elderly. Once those names were verified, they came into the ministry and then a spatial check was done. That is, drone footage, GIS work was done to ensure that the site that was said to be destroyed was actually destroyed. We also ensured that persons who benefited from other relief programs did not get a double benefit.
The minister also toured the Shrewsbury-Petersfield cluster site in Westmoreland, one of several developments being prepared for families who lost both their homes and the land they occupied during the hurricane.
This site is being developed by the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, along with the National Housing Trust and the JDF and ODBEP and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. We are putting in 20 units initially. We will be fencing, we will be upgrading the infrastructure, as you see, the roadway, the drains, water mains, and sewage. They will be fenced, and the beneficiaries, the first set of beneficiaries for these will be those persons who were in shelters or who would have vacated the shelters and are catching with their relatives and friends.
Among those benefiting from the program is Shermaine Forrest, who now has a place to rebuild her life with her father and 2 children after months of uncertainty. Government officials say the container housing program will continue over the coming months as additional units are installed across hurricane-affected communities in Western Jamaica. Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I am Danita Rodney.
In the business report, Jamaican patty chain Juicy Patties is expanding its Caribbean footprint, seeking franchise partners in Trinidad and Tobago as it targets the opening of about 20 restaurants across the Twin Island Republic. Juicy Patties currently operates 66 locations in Jamaica and has expanded rapidly in the United States, with more than 30 restaurants opened and additional locations under construction across 11 states. The company says Trinidad and Tobago is the next step in its regional growth strategy as it seeks entrepreneurs committed to quality service and business development. Denise Williams brings us the latest market updates.
For the trading period of July 29, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Kingston Wharves Limited with 6,555,504 units, representing 28.48% of market sales. Jamaica Stock Exchange with 4,992,577 units, representing 17.12% of market sales. Trans Jamaica Highway Limited with 4,167,607 units, representing 14.29% of market sales. Investor activity remained concentrated in distribution, finance, and transportation, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for July 29, 2026. Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. Trading margins for the US dollar reflected steady liquidity, with the US selling at $159.09 and buying at $157.39. For the Canadian dollar, moderate gains supported by $1.74 transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $111.34 and was bought for $109.60. For the British pound, continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities of $5.61 in profits for the banks. The British pound sold for $212.33 and was bought for $206.72. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, when professionals over the age of 45 face a career transition, the conversation usually centers on updating your resume, building new skills, or expanding a network. Rarely does anyone mention their credit report. Yet from a lender's perspective, financial readiness often determines how quickly someone can take advantage of a new opportunity. Whether it's launching a business, relocating for a new role, or managing a temporary reduction in income, access to credit can make the transition smoother. A strong career history is valuable. A strong credit history is equally important. One reflects your professional reputation. The other reflects your financial credibility. As careers become less predictable, both deserve regular attention. So the question isn't whether your career will change, it's whether your finances are prepared when it does. For our Funded and Focused feature, we ask, what if the biggest obstacle to funding isn't your business? It's your pitch. Too many entrepreneurs spend their time explaining what they need today. Investors and lenders want to know what you'll build tomorrow. Instead of presenting a list of financial challenges, present a roadmap for growth. Show them where your business will be in 5 years, the milestones you'll reach, and how their capital will help accelerate that journey. Money follows momentum. A compelling vision, backed by a credible plan, is often more persuasive than a desperate need for cash. And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, in Guyana, the MV Barima is unlikely to be salvaged from the floor of the Essequibo River, according to Guyana's Prime Minister, Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips. Speaking on the headlines of Monday's parliamentary sitting, Prime Minister Phillips said reports from a specialized French diving team indicate that the 87-year-old vessel is too structurally fragile to recover safely after about 15 dives to the wreck. This lies some 50 feet underwater.
The submerged MV Barima is unlikely to be raised because the weakened vessel may not withstand a salvage operation, Prime Minister Mark Phillips has said. Phillips explained the difficulties during an interview on the sidelines of Monday's parliamentary sitting, citing the findings of the French diving team that examined the wreck. His comments present a painful prospect for families who believe their missing relatives may still be trapped inside. Many have continued gathering at Charity Waterfront, waiting for updates, while search and recovery operations remain ongoing.
If you listen to the interview with the French, right, the whole issue of raising the vessel has been not been further at this stage because it's difficult to do that exercise now.
Phillips said Guyanese and French divers have already searched inside and around the wreck under extremely hazardous conditions. He praised their experience and dismissed the suggestion that bringing in additional diving teams would necessarily produce a different result.
The vessel is likely to remain there as is. The local divers, the French divers, they're the best. They went inside and outside the vessel. And just listen to their report. It's difficult. Bringing other divers will not change the situation.
Phillips' remarks did not make clear whether the government had issued a final decision about abandoning the salvage or whether raising the vessel had simply been ruled out under the present conditions. The French team, in updating family members of some 30 persons still unaccounted for, said they completed approximately 15 dives. Divers said they encountered powerful tides and currents, almost to no visibility, and unstable structure containing numerous rooms and confined spaces. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Teachers in Antigua and Barbuda will soon have access to additional professional development training. The fresh opportunity has arisen from a newly formed partnership between the Caribbean Union of Teachers and the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. Philana Johnson reports.
Antigua and Barbuda and other members of the Caribbean Union of Teachers, CUT, are set to benefit from a partnership with the Trinidad-based Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. The partnership, which was made official last week Friday, focuses on 3 pillars. The first 2 are focused on access to education, including developing a leadership course called the CUT Cipriani Leadership Academy. President of the CUT, Sharon Kelsick, says the academy is focused on nurturing the drive of those who wish to continue the work of the union leaders.
We want to target some of our current leaders as well as young persons, and so within that first cohort for the Leadership Academy, we're hoping to target 50 union leaders.
She points out they are currently creating a team to guarantee accessibility. The final pillar focuses on collaborative research to support data-driven engagement with regional groupings such as the Caribbean community.
When we do go to the table, we have strong data to support the decisions that we are pushing or to support the principles that we're pushing. I always believe that decisions driven by data are always more, they create longer lasting effects.
Kelsick also encouraged all CUT members to take advantage of the opportunities once more information becomes available. Philana Johnson, ABS News.
A youth advocate in the Bahamas is calling for stronger community intervention and conflict resolution programs as more teenagers become involved in serious crimes. He argues that stronger community support, early intervention and conflict resolution efforts are needed to help steer more young people away from violence. More in this report.
More teens are finding themselves at the center of serious crimes, and one youth advocate says it's a trend that needs some swift action. Crime advocate and Teen Challenge Bahamas President Eric Fox says he's deeply concerned about the growing number of young people linked to serious crimes, including murders and armed robberies. You may remember that on Independence Day, a teen was fatally shot in a yard in the Baintown community. In recent months, other teens have appeared before the courts facing serious criminal charges. Speaking on the sidelines of an urban renewal event today, Fox said too many young people are focusing on crimes themselves while overlooking the underlying issues driving young people toward violence.
It's obvious there are some warfare going on. I believe a lot stuff is related to retaliation, and also when we see this kind of stuff going on, we need to understand there's a bigger picture, some other things as well. Normally drugs. Normally it's drugs. People are involved in trafficking drugs, and you know, drugs people get ripped, and fellas they take that seriously.
All right, and for years, authorities and advocates have tried to come up with solutions to this problem. Fox says while it's often easy to cast blame, what's missing is the support and efforts of communities.
We need to try to find a way. So here I say we, right? I ain't putting nothing off on the government, the police. Commissioner Police Shannon knows, and the police officers, they doing their job. They are, you know, but they can't determine who want to do nothing. All they can do is respond after the fact. So I believe if we can work closer with the police and giving them information and work closely with them and not being pulled back where we withhold stuff from them, we can see a lot of stuff be solved, a lot of stuff come to head. We also need to push some more conflict resolution in the schools. We need to make this type of stuff a part of the curriculum.
In sports, we go trackside with athletics. Jamaica added 2 more medals to its tally on day 7 of the 23rd Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland, including a gold medal for long jumper Tajay Gale. Gale captured the men's long jump title with a leap of 8.15 meters, while Lordrika Cameron claimed bronze in the women's shot put with a throw of 17.87 meters. On the track, 5 Jamaicans advanced to the 200-meter semifinals. Alana Reid, Lavanya Williams, Rashawn Clark, and Javon Powell each won their heats, while Chris Taylor progressed after finishing second in his race with a season's best time. In the women's 400-meter hurdles, Cheyenne Sackman and Sanique Walker also booked their places in the finals after winning their respective heats. The Sunshine Girls edged Scotland 45-43 to remain in the contention for a semi-final spot, while Jamaica's women's 3x3 basketball team fell to Australia and New Zealand in both the semi-finals and bronze medal match to place 4th. Jamaica now sits 10th on the medal table with 4 medals, 3 golds and 1 bronze. In cricketing news, Barbados has bid farewell to cricket legend Sir Garfield Sobers, celebrating a life that transcended sport and helped shape the nation's identity. On Wednesday, at a state funeral attended by regional leaders, cricket greats, and hundreds of mourners, tributes honored Sir Garfield as a national hero whose extraordinary achievements inspired generations across Barbados, the Caribbean, and the wider cricketing world. CBC News' Deanza Roberts has the details.
From heads of government and cricket legends to ordinary Barbadians, every tribute carried the same message. Sir Garfield belonged to the world, but his heart always belonged to Barbados. Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley reflected on Sir Gary's place in the country's history, saying his excellence helped define a young nation, finding its place on the world stage.
We spoke then of the importance of reflecting to the nation the virtues that we would want associated with this nation forevermore. And most of them reflect sacrifice and struggle. But there was a debate that took place among those of us in the cabinet of the day that reflected the fact that while struggle and sacrifice brought us safely thus far, it was not the only thing that represented who we were as a people.
The Prime Minister also applauded the West Indies team for defeating Pakistan by 90 runs in the first test at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, dedicating the emotional win to the late Barbadian legend Sir Garfield Sobers on what would have been his 90th birthday.
The gods conspired that our West Indies team would equally celebrate him yesterday by winning on the 90th birthday of Sir Gary a match by 90 runs, but more importantly, in 4 days, so that each and every one of those Bajan cricketers could be here today to say farewell, our hero.
Former Chief Justice Sir David Simmons describes Sir Gary as more than a sporting icon. He said Sir Gary Sobers' achievements inspired a region preparing to govern itself.
If on the 30th of November 1966, Barbadians needed inspiration and to be imbued with self-confidence that we could make a success of independence, I venture to suggest that Sir Gary provided that inspiration by his legendary exploits in 1966. Here was a Barbadian at the very home of cricket in the mother country, proving to the world, as we sought freedom from British rule, that we were perfectly capable of managing our own affairs and excelling too.
The spiritual reflection came from Anglican priest Guy Hewitt, who urged Barbadians to see Sir Gary not as a myth, but as proof that greatness comes through service, perseverance, and humility.
So today, we all, Prime Minister pointed out, must give profound thanks for the life and legacy of Sir Gary, who remains not out in our hearts. Now, reunited with his beloved Jackie, may he rest well, you great yet humble servant of the people.
As the service drew to a close, Kensington Oval rose in one final standing ovation, bidding farewell to the man whose strokes thrilled millions and whose legacy will forever be woven into the story of Barbados.
Well played, well lived, well loved. Go well, our hero. Go well, our beloved. We shall always love you.
That's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.